Angular provides a $HTTP backend service to intercept calls to a web service and fake the response. This fake HTTP backend implementation is suitable for any application that uses the $HTTP or $resource service. It mocks the calls to the web service, returning predefined static data to the application. There are two implementations of $HTTP backend. One is an ng-mock and is provided for use during unit testing. The other implementation is an ng-mock E2E. That implementation is for end-to-end testing. It can also be used for back-endless development, which is what we want to do. We want to develop our Angular application without having a back-end web service in place. So we want the implementation of $HTTP backend that is implemented in ng-mock E2E. Implementing the $HTTP backend service requires the following steps. First, download the JavaScript file containing the ng-mock E2E module, and of course insert the script tag into the index.html file. Create a new module that depends on ng-mock E2E. In that module, set up static data and define the fake responses to the web server calls using that data. Add this new module as a dependency in the main module. Anytime you want to turn off the mocking, simply remove the dependency. Let's give this a try. Here we are back in WebStorm. First, we need to locate the JavaScript library that contains the ng-mock E2E module. Luckily, it's in the same place that we found ng-resource. Click on Download, pick Browse Additional Modules, and locate Angular Mocks. I have already downloaded this file, and you can see that it's listed here in the JS folder. Before I forget, let's add that file to index.html with a script tag. Just be sure to add it after the reference to Angular itself. Next, we'll create the new module. We need this mocking throughout the application, so we'll put the new module under the Common Services folder. New JavaScript file, and we're going to call it product resource mock.js. Now we have another new file that we need to define in index.html. Let's do that now. So that's going to be another service, so we can put it here under our services. And we'll go back to our mock. In this new file, we'll create the module using code similar to that used when we created the main module and the Common Services module. So we have our IFI, we have useStrict, and we declare a variable where we're holding our reference to our new module. We're defining the module with the module method. The first parameter is the name of the module, product resource mock, and the second parameter are the dependencies. This module will depend upon the ng-mock E2E module. By now I'm sure this syntax looks familiar. We're going to use app.run to perform the initialization. App.run takes the function passed in as a parameter and executes it when the module is loaded. Inside this function, we need to do two things. First, we need to define the default set of data. This is the data that will be our mocking data. And we need to define the fake responses to the web service calls. First, let's define our set of products. If you are coding along and kept the list of products created in the product list controller, you can copy those here. Note that I added several more than what we had in our sample code. That's so that we have a little bit more to work with here. Next, we need to define the fake responses to the web server calls. We'll start with the URL that we're expecting to intercept. We're expecting to intercept /API/products. Then we'll define what should happen when a GET request is sent to this URL. We want to return the full list of products. We'll use the whenGet method of the $HTTP backend. This method says when there is a GET request on the defined URL, respond with the entire array of products. Now, because we put this code in another module, in order to use it in the rest of our application, we need to define it as a dependency in the main module. So we're going to go to app.js and we're going to add another dependency here. And that dependency is on product resource mock. Let's try the application again. We'll go to index.html and run the file. There we have data. But what really happened here? Let's look at that code again. Let's start with the controller. The controller is calling the query method of the product resource service. That service is sending a RESTful GET request to a web service using the URL that we defined there. In that case, it's /API/products. The HTTP backend service is intercepting that request. So when it receives that URL request, it's responding with that entire set of products. And it's taking the data it receives and assigning it to the products part of our model. Since products is already bound, as it was before when we had it hard-coded, the data immediately appears. So since we again have the products hard-coded in here, how is this different from just hard-coding the products into the controller? The biggest difference is that the code is now set up to communicate with a web service. Just remove that dependency. So we could go to app.js and simply remove this dependency, and the code will call the web service directly. So it's all prepped and ready to go as soon as the web service is in place.